course, being up the Vi and the Annie, both available as NIP. They're hovering over the Aphelios just because, you know, it's Aphelios, and it's still a very powerful AD carry. Wouldn't be surprised to see them lock that one in, but Vi plus Annie given over to Jiejie FoFo on R1, R2 would feel terrifying.
Oh, absolutely. So, Aphelios on the side, as you said. Let's just see the directional path, because I like that we've got the Jace ban. I like that we've got the Meiko ban, but this is a team that'll play, you know, a lot of carries in the solo lanes. Jamada, we were talking about top laners today. This is a team I'd be scared if Arla gets his hands on things like Fiora, Camille. This is his meta. And with a strong setup in the jungle from Jiejie, that could be something we have to talk about a little bit later. But for now, there you go. The jungler that even in 13.7, we were talking about non-stop. And the jungler at MSI that we know was going to be played a hell of a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. Ahri actually will be locked in. So happy to leave NIP with the Annie if they so choose. Of course, Vi Ahri, the combo that we saw in spring a lot in MSI as the kind of assassination dive duo. The Vi locks in place a target and then the charm is pretty much always confirmed. NIP with the Aphelios already locked in, looking to find an enchanter with it. Inside Lulu, wouldn't be surprised to see this one locked in alongside something for Shadow, right? A Wukong, a Viego, even a Lee Sin, right? Something that can skirmish and go toe-to-toe with that mid-jungle on the opposite side for VGG.
Yeah, I mean, Shadow has been a pretty good carry player. I remember when Rumble Jungle was in, that was some of his prime, but what is he going to go for? I mean, as you said already, Wukong there is an option. I feel like Viego feels more of his playstyle, but for now, maybe we get the mid takeaway, or rather, some of the supportive takeaways as well. So Angel debuts here on the Annie.
Yeah, I like that too, because I mentioned 3 champions. There's probably quite a few more in the pit and ready for Shadow, whereas Annie, so powerful that if it does get banned away, obviously it's just gone, right? And you know the matchup is positive into Ahri 1-to-1. You can really poke down and harass her once the level 6 comes in as well. So I like the fact that NIP go towards that and just say, we believe that Shadow has a champion pool deep enough to survive 2 potential targeted bans as EDG go towards that Jinx, which in my mind is the better end of the Aphelios. We see, you know, list of matchups as they'll now look to remove away a couple of those AD skirmishing options, and we'll see whether or not EDG look to try and get an enchanter of their own, or whether or not NIP steal those away too.
I wonder if they're going to get rid of some of the engage options. When you look at Meiko, you think Thresh, you think Nautilus, you think about some beautiful engage supports that the meta is currently dictating as well. So one of them taken away, as we've already seen a bit of Nautilus today, and we'll have to see if that Thresh was a bit of a bait hover. Is Kindred also taken away Jamada, lost a little bit of priority, but for Shadow, maybe something that he's been doing a little bit dirty in solo queue.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Kindred took like a bit of a hit with the AD item changes, but I've been seeing a couple of different variations of Kindred come through, where some are even dipping into things like the Triforce, which of course you can proc quite freely with the Dance of Arrows, but of course things like Storm Razor and IE Gale Force still very, very strong options for the champion, as toying with the idea of the Blitzcrank, right? NIP kind of split their bans, went one into the Nautilus, one into the Gwen, as I imagine they're looking for something tank-orientated on the top side. It does mean that if Meiko wanted to go towards that Blitzcrank for a more pick-orientated champion, he could have gone towards it, but the Rakan up and available, again, just to facilitate more engage between the Vi and the Ahri, just makes the trio so slippery.
On the other side, NIP, what are they thinking about? Well, the Poppy is an option. This has gone top, this has also gone jungle. Jamada, this would be great against Ahri, against Vi, but are they just flirting? Are they actually going to come to the date?
I think it's pretty good, right? You've got Ahri plus Vi Dash, and you can stop the Rakan. I think the jungle matchup is one where you really get to stomp on the Vi, but no, we're just going to get the Viego by the end of it. I'm kind of sad because they hovered it. So it's like, they acknowledged that Poppy's a pretty good champion here, but they just don't play it, apparently. So EDG now have freedom for the top side. And like you mentioned, Arla, so many side lane picks if he wants them. Open. Yeah, I mean, Fiora kind of monsters this game, I will say that. Nars not bad as a more neutral option than Jax. I feel like is unironically one of the more, like, it's rougher to play out until you have your items. You know, like, you don't really get to force the issue for a little while, but it's not like you're going to be contested on the side lane post 2 items anyway, so Arla goes towards it, tried and tested, of course.
Okay, so if we're talking about side lanes getting some items for Arla, is that the case elsewhere? Because it feels like for EDG, they're going to be playing a lot towards mid-jungle, a lot towards the strength of Vi Ahri, especially at level 6. We know that leave on a hyper carry is also good news as well. Run me through how EDG want to play this comp when there are a couple of front lines, a lot of shields, and the ability for a bit of a front to back to be played by NOP.
Yeah, I
think that people would say, hey, this team, after how they performed in spring, they should be putting their name on the agenda for one of those top 4 spots. But it all starts here at the beginning of their split, as in Zhuo NIP had been waiting for them. Look at the virtual city. And let's see if NIP can actually nip EDG in the bud for their first series.
Yeah, it would be a good start for NIP, right? Trying to move some of that positive energy over between splits. And I like how you said it for EDG, but honestly, I wouldn't even mince words, Jake. I think if you're looking at, you know, the level of consistency that a lot of teams showed throughout spring, you would almost be a bit foolish to say that EDG probably weren't the second strongest team, right? But playoffs births miracles, and even though EDG fell short, it did give us that BLG finals at MSI, like you mentioned. But they'll be angry, I'm sure, thinking about that and knowing that BLG couldn't topple JDG in the end again. And if they can start off strong here against NIP and give us a showing, I think one of the few rosters off the top of my head that hasn't had any changes at all, right? So many LPL rosters this summer, it felt like, had, you know, 1 player come out or 2 players come out and in. EDG keeping all 5 members should, of course, benefit them in the sense of maintaining all of that juicy synergy.
Yeah, definitely will. Just going to quickly talk about Angel in the mid lane. Good charm by FoFo, who just hit level 2 and got a good trade back as well. I was going to say that, you know, for EDG, why would they change their roster when, you know, Leave was a big surprise coming up from the LDL? You know, FoFo coming to this roster as well. Like, there were so many pieces put together as Flandre left the roster. You know, Scout left EDG for the first time in 5-6 years, maybe almost 7. There were a lot of big changes for EDG, yet they found themselves close to hitting internationals. So, still a very big piece of momentum that we're looking for in summer. Well, for NIP, new roster as well. I guess 1 member makes a new roster, and that's Angel. Angel, you know, coming over. I mean, this guy, like, he's had pretty big moments as well. He's been to internationals. Angel's been pretty solid for Weibo Gaming in the past. And now in a roster that maybe doesn't have as much expectations, his chance to kind of be in the limelight.
Yeah, right. I mean, Angel was it 2020 Worlds on the Suning roster at, you know, peak, but since then has definitely struggled to find himself on teams that make it across the finish line, make it, you know, deep into playoffs consistently, or just about over the line for Worlds. Wants to recapture that, like you mentioned, really high highs. And I think a player like him, where NIP have a lot of players who have also shown, like Photic, for example, on old V5 was phenomenal alongside, was it PP Gold off the top of my head? My depth of knowledge can sometimes be poor as the newbie on the block sometimes, but you know, Photic, PP Gold last year, really solid. Now with Zhuo, still shown a pretty solid level of consistency for me. So a player like can, you know, kind of do everything, right? He can play carries, he can play utility champions. I think being able to fit the mold in a meta where, you know, we're going to consistently see evolving changes, where right now it feels like utility mids can pay off high dividends. Whilst you're trying to pay out carries for the bottom side, could mean that NI turn into a well-oiled machine later on down the line.
Let's see, again, first series of the split, first game of the split, guys. We're not talking about the early game because Jamada, you know, we also mentioned is Ale gets a really good trade here onto Invincible. Maybe things don't happen for 4-6, but I could be wrong because Invincible gets a good trade. Here comes Shadow. It'll be Flash, but Ala out in the nick of time with the Leap Strike thanks to the ward. And no summoners will be burnt as Shadow is now spotted up in this top side.
Yep, no summoner spell burnt. Shadow unfortunately does give himself away, but it's coming off the back of a reset anyway from a full clear, so no harm, no foul. And Ala will just take his reset and a teleport back out towards the top side, and Invincible, no doubt, will look to do the exact same as on the bottom side. Spoke about Photic and Zhuo being a pretty consistent duo, already taking a plate in this 2v2, and it can, to a point, be expected, right? Rakan can't necessarily provide too much in the 2v2, but you'll often see that Jinx, just with the Rockets alone, can power through priority, but with Infernum plus that Lulu, means that they were able to get that plate off super early in the laning phase.
Be curious to see what happens at 6, though. Again, Jamada, 6, such an important part. Angel, Shadow, Invincible. I mean, I just keep naming everyone in the team. Vi and Ahri, of course, at 6. Come alive. This feels like a game where we're just going to be chilling in bed for a little bit, guys. Tuck in. Because once we hit the 6, once we hit maybe first Dragon, first Herald, right? There should be fighting in this game.
Absolutely. Get your snacks, though. Until then.
Oh, yeah?
Nice cup of tea.
I would.
Maybe some biscuits.
I could. I've cooked a whole leg of lamb as FoFo, actually getting a bit meated himself. Whole leg of lamb. I cooked it, and I was like, oh my god, the break going to Shenzhen is nothing. I couldn't tuck in. It literally 2 kilos just about, with rosemary, olive oil. We salt and peppered it, guys. Bit of lemon zest because, you know, we're bougie.
Oh,
Watch a lot of Gordon Ramsay. So, yeah, that's just sitting inside.
Good.
And I can't eat it. I have to sit here. I literally have to sit here, guys. I'm not complaining. I'm just kidding. It's great to do that. Sound like an absolute princess. I wish my partner was watching so she could feed me. But can't get away with it. You know, in CSGO, you can kind of get away. Like some of the Aussie casters will have like a snack pack, a HSP, if the Australians know what that is, while casting CS. League, you can't really get away with it. I feel like someone's always talking, you know?
Huh. That's really true. Whilst we was talking about Hysterics' 2 kilogram,
Oh, very hungry.
joint of lamb, which is now starting to make me hungry, by the way. NIP did steal away that dragon. Nothing really occurred from it. I think, like you mentioned, we're gonna get to podcast a bit for a while, as I feel like for EDG, very happy to wait for those level 6s, which are starting to crest over now, right? Jiejie just hit his, so Cease and Desist up and available, and Herald up in a minute's time means that I'm sure they'll be looking for players around the top side then, but they're actually looking now. Shadow could be caught unawares. They're going to take away the blue buff at the very least. Shadow will be down that buff. I think kind of aware that it could be going on. If he saw the particle effects, I'm not sure if you get to see that as a neutral or as one side of a team, but either way, just backs away.
Going up to the top side, might try to find something with the lane gang. Heartbreaker was picked up from that Gromp as well. Zala with the counter-strike. Ward is good here. Spots Shadow on the approach. And now Arla's just trying to bait it through. Decimating Smash, of course, doesn't hit. Cheeky -1 there for our screen as Arla has the wave at his fingertips. Jamada, a great wave state. And now NIP are like, look, we can try and set up for the Herald. We can see what else we can get in the top side. But his blue buff's gone. And EDG are just chilling a little bit further with some nice CS leads up in that top side with a sneaky blue buff that maybe they wouldn't have had. And a frozen lane up there as well is worth mentioning.
Feels good for Arla for now. I think it's the bottom lane and the supports which are going to make the big difference. And Meiko already having level 6 at 8 minutes into the game means that him being over here a lot more impactful than what Zhuo could potentially produce for NIP. NIP, they're still going to try and poke and prod their way through, and because this Herald will start up late, it means that we could get a fight. Oh. Goodness me.
Meiko not finding anything, going to get polymorphed and run into, but Invincible doesn't find the mark. FoFo out with the Spirit Rush as well, and Herald decides that she's going to get some time in the sun, a quick reset to come through. She got mad for a bit, but just apparently not. What is that reset?
This is the second time. Did they change Herald under the hood? Did you see the one yesterday? Where,
yeah, I did. And it didn't hard reset. I thought it meant the hard reset now. That's not hard at all.
I wonder if they... It really does feel like they've mucked with the patience bar and how it interacts, because that felt like it got dragged out so far. Like, like, not to say that Shadow didn't walk in range to release it, right? But it does look a little bit strange. So maybe something to look into, because yeah, it does feel a little bit odd. Maybe I just don't read. We'll see. In between the games, I'll go and check the patch.
I know that jungle patience has been changed, but it's just janky, right? And again, we can sit here all day, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to sit here. When Yumi's in game, that's when we'll sit here all day.
Forget, you know what? Forget the jungle patience from, neutral objectives. Until Zeri and Yumi is gone, I'm not going to stop complaining about that like ever. We just... It's so... I'm not going to start. I'm not going to start Hysterics, I could go on a rant for hours.
We could just complain and go over and over. I know, brother, I know. You know what? I'm just happy that, bans exist. Remember back in the day, if we were in the current meta and we only had 3 bans like we did in, Season 3 or Season 2? Before they expanded it to 5 bans each? Imagine how much of the game would be so rough to play. As we're going to talk about playing the game rough because Shadow's coming into the bot lane. Here comes that support back in as Leave going to be tagged up. There's a Gravitum in range. Zhuo going to try and slow him down, but Shadow now spots out the bottom lane of EDG, or rather half of it, with Jiejie roaming around. FoFo's coming in as well, so Shadow playing a little bit ambitious here, depending on that Vault Breaker, and it does hit the Heartbreaker out to Polymorph with Gravitum as a follow-up side effect. EDG have numbers advantage down here, but they still don't find the kill, and Dragon's 20 seconds away, so at the very least, it might give them a bit of pressure after the fact.
Yeah, it could give them some pressure, but I think the big thing is that EDG not having that Viome, it means that target selection is always going to be a little bit trickier, right? A little less guaranteed and confirmed. As up here, Arla looking for the extended trade.
Oh, ulti's blocked away. Arla going to get Decimating Smash after the fact, but no knockup. Meanwhile, Angel's caught out, has to flash over the wall, and oh, the failed flash. Jiejie missing the wall as a two-man Incinerate is beautiful. NIP might have follow-up here, but the Orb Deception does great work onto Angel. Meanwhile, a flash and a solo kill is going to be our 11-minute first blood, with Arla showing up big here on his Jax.
He put the work in the previous trade, but it seems like Invincible just overreached his bounds, and Arla punishes it with a follow-up flash. And on the bottom side there, we also saw a lot of some of the spells and ultimates being blown in the end of it. It will be NIP picking up the Dragon. Herald will be traded and put down in the mid lane, however, so gold being thrown left and right here definitely feels a little bit better in the immediate for EDG, right, to get the gold to go towards the items, whereas for NIP, it's a Cloud Dragon, which can always feel great for the Soul. Let's see how this solo kill ensued. I think this is the initial trade where, yeah, unfortunately the Q doesn't actually get fully channeled, right? I think Invincible is maybe concerned or scared that Arla will walk behind the Q before the knockup, so just cancels the channel. What does he do? Does he just step up trying to get the W dab? Yeah, I mean... I mean, it's not even where the trade starts. He's just... I will also say, I think Arla walked into that bush with no mana and then actually used the biscuit inside of it as well, which could have been the difference between Invincible thinking he had no mana and being useless champion and being able to do what he just did. So, great use of vision there.
And all I can say from that is that Arla, not only with the kill, steps up into a bit of a lead, but with the Divine Sunder against his Scion, Jamada yet again, I think we're going to be talking about a Jax in this game. It's a 1k gold lead, but NIP have double Dragon. What is the value here? You need to tell me a little bit about how this game should proceed, because I'm now worried about the side lanes of NIP before they even have time to group, despite the fact that they've been able to get some of these early objectives.
Yeah, so am I. And remember, right, the whole breaker changes mean that Arla is likely to go towards that. I think for NIP, they need to try and find, you know, a big yield team fight relatively soon. Arla's just putting Shadow out of his own jungle. He's 1v3, so...
11? Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, Counter-Strike is there. He should die here, ladies and gentlemen. He should. He should, but he leap strikes. Invincible ulti there, by the way. I don't know where it went, but unfortunately, he's not going to find too much as the rest of EDG come in. They've just broken down mid-turret. Arla's still alive. Shadow almost died. Jaxes today are big with both biceps and minds.
You know, NIP might have a top laner named Invincible, but I know which top laner actually is Invincible, and apparently it's Arla in the middle of all three. And he even manages to effectively delayed invade, whilst FoFo also secured the mid lane tower, so really great stuff from our Jax in this one. And I think for now, EDG happy to just wait this one out. Herald spawns in 45 seconds. They can lane top if they want. Put Arla on the bottom side so he'll have a tower to whack at. And then all is pretty well. I think NIP again, now put in another hole. He was asking me what can they do. I think trying to just get ahead of EDG somewhere, create one pocket of fog, and see if you can create a pick, find a tower, anything like that to try and claw a little bit of gold back. But ideally it has to go into Photic's back pocket. I feel like Aphelios has to get, you know, slightly more accelerated in this game because he's got Lulu and he's got Annie and he's got a lot of protection around him, so he can take over this one despite the amount of target selection that EDG have on offer. It's fine. It's fine.
Meiko and Jiejie, they're a threat. I mean, I thought it'd be Jiejie and FoFo syncing up, but it has been this support. Meiko has just been sticking by. And, you know, it's cute, right? The last remaining elements of the 2021 World Champion roster. Am I right with the years? Jamada, 2021?
Yeah.
2022? No,
2021.
yes.
2022,
LPL wasn't even in it, it was the DRX run. Oh, good. Yeah, we got there in the end. My years are a little bit hard, but
what was 2020, Hysterics?
was Damwon versus Suning and that was Bin in the finals with the only pentakill ever in a world finals. Take that, memory.
All right.
I can remember that much, but everything else down the drain.
It's a blur. Nothing. Everything before 2020 just doesn't exist anymore because all of my years have meshed together.
It's before 2018, before LPL won Worlds. I don't want to hear about it. too much LCK dominance.
Oh man,
that was before we had the Shy. Well, no, I mean the Shy came in 2017, but 2017 summer I think for WE as a streamer. But hey, 2018, that's where we start talking. That road led us to Gigabin. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a slow game. We all know that you want to sit there and enjoy the fiesta, enjoy the blood. But EDG right now feeling pretty methodical here, especially through that side lane. Now moving to the first dragon, that could be theirs. Otherwise, NIP will be on Soul Point. So 25 seconds to find that play out as EDG setting up for a potential dive on the bottom side. But it's just going to be Herald placed down while Invincible probably has to leave.
Yeah, definitely does. Herald will charge in here, get the tower. So a bit of extra gold into Ala's back pocket. Doesn't look like they want to actually put that one through to a tier 2 charge. And just want to secure this dragon, right? Stop the stacking from NIP. And EDG, because they've given over those first couple of dragons, in a world where this does go to a potential soul point for them, it's going to be a lot of extra movement speed, man, because that's going to be 4 Cloud Dragons for them stacked up. See if we do get there. For now, EDG, calm, cool, collected, only a kill in this game. And again, I think NIP, the problem for them, like I mentioned earlier, they need to try and maybe create a pocket of fog and actually try and lure EDG into it to find a pick. Their general issue is that they don't really have great engage tools, right? It's pretty much Sion and Annie and hope that EDG misses position. That's about it. And I think that's the biggest problem they're going to face at the moment because EDG have been so patient on the map with their rotations. Generally have paid a lot of respect to NIP to a point where it just feels like it might be a little bit too difficult for NIP to consistently find an advantage like that.
I mean, even here, right, having to back off because, as you said, the engage tools aren't that solid. And for EDG on top of that, Jamada, they have a lot of repositioning. They have a lot of disengage. There's a lot of, I guess, fanning out for EDG that they can play these fights through. So making matters even more difficult. We could look at draft and look at the quality of EDG, and I guess the difference between them and NIP this game is NIP have only picked up one single turret. Another turret goes down for EDG where all 3 outers have now fallen. It's a 4K gold lead. And Baron's coming up soon. We've got another dragon in about 3 minutes 30. It might be slow, but right now the Methodical is feeling in favor of EDG massively with players like Lee, players like FoFo really scaling up. More importantly, Ala in the side lane having the time of his life because Invincible is about a level and a half down as Ala is just taking everything on the map.
Yep, just wants to get to his next items as soon as possible. And I think this is just going to be a slow suffocation, right? EDG, very hyped to play out the map state. You said with all of those hours gone, they can catch whatever wave they want on the map super high, wait for a response from NIP, and then go and place their vision, right? And there's no real danger or threat of realistically ever getting caught out by anything too dangerous, as long as they know where the numbers are. And they're pretty much always going to know where those numbers are with this priority. And you can see it right here. Cloud Rift as well, right? The Rift is going to help them rotate even faster, so it's going to feel a little bit worse. Will they get that blue buff? No, they won't.
Shadow did get it. Charm is out there as well. Everfrost good, but they've just back away. So again, we just chill out. Hey, do you reckon leave red patch changes, or do you reckon he just went Kraken first because he wants to destroy Invincible? Of course, that's sarcasm, because on that note, look at the itemization, Jamada. Leave went Kraken first. Black Cleaver from Jiejie. Divine Sundra from Ala. They are literally saying that Invincible will be visible this game because this guy is going to die probably immediately, quicker than people think.
Yeah, very, very fast. And I wonder, you know, some may be thinking, did these guys even read the patch notes? Do they know? Have things really changed for EDG? Are we just still in 13.8? You know, everything is just the same. I mean, to be fair, I think everyone is itemizing pretty well to just deal with the front line. I think you're right, Jake, to be honest with you, because as soon as Invincible is out of the equation, right, NIP are kind of just sitting ducks for the rest of EDG to kind of just make pickings of as they choose between all of their engage options. So if they can kill the front line pretty quickly, then yeah, I think they'll be very, very content with being able to contest whatever they want. So like what EDG are doing right now. That was a bit of a wayward rocket belt, looking for an engage on leave, but now it may just turn into a collapse.
They're getting collapsed on your right. In they go for a penny for a pound with quickness in the middle as well. Look at Lee free hitting in the back line. That Zion still tanking up, but Arla's just run on in. He's the true Invincible in Jamada. Once everyone starts hitting them, look at his health bar disintegrate. EDG have built to take down the Terminator, and the Terminator is down.
Terminator dead in the lava. Thumbs up, maybe, from Invincible as he goes down, who knows. But EDG happy to pick up their 2 kills and get the Baron. And again, I think it's just going to be a textbook suffocation. It's not fun to watch, but I'll tell you, it's really good League of Legends. And NIP, I just don't know if they have an answer for it, to be honest with you. I think with the lack of engage from anywhere, really, that can consistently nail somebody down whilst they actually get DPS or burst out. It feels so rough, and this angle is so good. Double engage knockup from Meiko and from Jiejie. Impossible to walk away from. And once Arla finds the back line, it's all over. No DPS from Photic. Means that Invincible has no reason to ever be taking any kind of damage front line. He gets bursted out because all of the itemization from EDG to effectively make that guy not a tank.
I mean, there's a Blade of the Ruined King. There's a Blade of the Ruined King. We've now got an Infinity Edge on top of Lane.
Nah, this is like, did Invincible say something in like the lobby? He must have just said
Talking
something
smack.
like really, yeah, he's just talking some smack, and EDG just like, we are all gonna build to kill. We don't care about anything else.
What else are we going to get? Some Wits Ends next, maybe. Just some more on here. Maybe, I was going to say, if we didn't have a Divine Sundra, we could get some Gwinsus there, but shame. There we go. Charm going to be hit. Invincible.
Oh,
take a bit of damage. Leave actually caught out, has to flush away. We're talking about cleanliness, but it's not there. Leave is flanked by Angel, EDG, and a pincer, but they need to get out of there because this fight is going horribly for them. FoFo flashing away, gets an Orb of Deception, survives for now. But wait, there's more. Arla's coming in. This man is a 2-item Jax, and Invincible is going to rue the day he stands near him. Level 15, and the flashes burn. Arla comes through, still strong, but that was the best fight NIP could have hoped for in the situation of this game.
Yeah, it really was, right? I think being able to catch off EDG like that, a little bit too split off, caught in the rotation. Didn't expect the teleport angle either from Angel. Means that they do lose a lot of Baron time here. It might even just clip a majority, but they still actually have 60 seconds left because of how quickly they were able to return back to the map with buff originally. So maybe they find one more tower, maybe through the top side. They decide to immediately go up towards that way. But you can see they're looking to rotate down towards Arla here, but the teleport out of vision, they're not expecting it, and Leave also just greeds for the cannon. That's all it is. And he doesn't even get it, bless him. Gets collapsed on, and then yeah, it's a bit of a bounce house in this corridor here that EDG have to retreat as quickly as they can away. Honestly, very fortunate to only lose 2 members in that particular instance. But NIP definitely not entirely out of it in the sense of life, right? Certainly still looking for angles when and where they can.
Well, the gold lead, yeah, still big for EDG's sake, but at least we know NIP, with those said signs of life, can do quite a lot. There's a rabbit on Zethcap, excuse me, for Angel. I did say Baron because Baron has been picked up by EDG, so despite the compliments for NIP, the Baron buff making it hard here is trying to collapse here onto Arla, but he's level 16 as meanwhile there's a pick off. Guess who's dead? It's Photic. And the pick potential continues here by Edward Gaming as it goes back to being methodical this game.
Yep, I mean, what can you do, right? No flash now on Photic at the minute from before the Baron went down, and EDG's composition, it drives itself, right? It's a very spring composition. Nothing's really changed for EDG. And just kind of walking this one home. NIP, again, the option's so limited, it feels so difficult, and admittedly, has to be said, Photic and Zhuo had not much business being that far up the lane. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous because they're behind the tier 1 even, but with no tier 2, they just shouldn't really be up there, as EDG were just looking for the top tower, catch them in rotation.
Well, with that pick off, again, EDG are able to get more resources in the form of that inner turret in the top side. That now goes down. I'm going to keep looking at Arla's build because he is heading towards, you know, the Hull Breaker again. We've got to stop watching inventory. Look at Invincible. 1.5 items. This guy needs to shop at Kmart. While Arla is literally going to RM Williams, for all you Aussies out there. Country Road. This guy's going to David Jones.
Right, what is like the European version of an what is an RM Williams?
RM Williams do cowboy boots. They're like 650 bucks each.
What the?
Real sexy.
Okay.
You know what's the equivalent? What's an expensive pair of boots for you?
I don't know. Not cowboy boots. I don't know.
I don't know.
We don't do. To be fair, I'm gonna be in Texas soon. So what? I might have to find one. Yeah, I'm gonna be in the center of it all. I'm sure Mazelle's gonna be happy about me being there. Someone who's not happy about being where they are is Angel.
Well, Invincible at least blocks out, but remember this guy taking up Angel half his health, but they get a reset. Meiko's down, and for Viego, that's not bad. Onto Arla. He jumps, but Arla jumps away. Heartbreaker used, and down he goes. In a choke, NIP aren't going to take him to smoke because Shadow continues trying to follow up. He wants another reset, but FoFo's out with the Spirit Rush. And just like that, Edward Gaming making the game a little bit more tricky for themselves.
All right, not bad. I mean, NIP, we've said that engaging can be quite difficult, but what they do very well is stand their ground. And EDG looking for that pick onto Angel. Just didn't press tab, didn't recognize that he had the stopwatch. They overcommit for the pick. And unfortunately, NIP were waiting around the corner. All the members pay for it with their life. The idea of the pick makes sense, right? Look at where Arla is. He has an angle for it, but they see everyone on NIP. They still decide to commit. And in this kind of situation, you've got Infernum on Photic as well. If they decided to funnel into the choke, thankfully for EDG, they didn't. It would have been absolutely minced. And great chaining of CC and damage here. That polymorph really saves NIP's ability to actually pick off Arla on the backside of that as well. So very well played, Zhuo.
In the end, they were minced, so turned into burgers. Love the phrasing. EDG have given over a bit of gold now to this team. And look, Angel with a rabbit on. Photic, I want to see in a second where he's sitting at, because it's Aphelios with the right type of guns. Seems like he's more of a threat than the game's let on. NIP give it a chance into this game. They got the first two dragons, so the soul is not up and available. Instead, as they start the Baron, they're saying, hey, EDG, we got some spunk in the trunk. As teleport's going to be used up across the way. Angel gets out with the charge. Beautiful stuff as they all in. Meiko finds it. And through they charge. Jiejie's ulti. Absolutely gorgeous. Photic can't get out as he is shrunk to smithereens. And they ignore Invincible for the time being as Shadow is getting some resets here. Charm, beautiful, Heartbreaker, another reset, and Zombie Scion. Invincible trying to punch him away, but Shadow gets out because Arla is stopping him in his tracks. EDG might win the fight, but it is way too close to call it.
Way too close. 3 for 3. EDG might be able to send Arla towards this top side of the map and get a little bit of something. 100% Leave will get this dragon too, so I guess it's a win at the end of the day. But considering where EDG were in the game, NIP holding on, and holding on really, really well. Shadow with a little bit of heroics as well, because that fight was starting to look so wayward for them. As I've got to say, FoFo, having this charm really, really solid, sets up for the initial engage, right? Even though Invincible is there to frontline, gets knocked out of the way. It actually might have saved Angel to keep him a little bit alive longer, but that ultimate towards the back lane, and the fact that Arla was able to get access to Photic so easily meant that this fight looked really one-sided. But once Shadow starts to get involved in the mix, it looks like a different team fight.
That emphasis on the Q flash as a buy. He Q flashed Jamada to secure the kill, otherwise he doesn't get that. That was insane from the Italian Stallion. And now, Shadow, who has come back in, remember he finished NIP split, he played the rest of the game, is now carrying them in this game. The Italian pride better stand up, as now the Silver 14 Viego has to deal with the turn here onto Baron 7k. EDG are rolling in. They're still the team that's better than Invincible. Tries to slow them up. There's Australians, but onto the Baron. No, it's stolen. Shadow just talking him up as the Heartbreaker's over. Has lost a big purple worm. And the fight is so scattered from NIP. They're separated away. Just as we look at them nipping it in the bud, it's Edward Gaming that roll it all back.
NIP get too lost in the hype and the source. They go for the Baron again, back to back, but with no summoner spells on Photic, he was easy pickings, even though he had the stopwatch, I think. Just walk past Invincible, right? With all of this mobility, this time around, even if they tried to stand their ground, it wasn't enough. And EDG will close out this game in 30 minutes.
when we're talking him up, it was absolutely bang up, ladies and gentlemen. Jamada
Definitely.
gonna take over.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's fine. I was a bit distracted there. I think, to me, EDG, I think for the first 20 minutes, he did a really good job of suffocating out NIP. I think probably just ran into a couple of issues in the sense of maybe opening up the map so soon. It felt a little bit too difficult for them to actually, you know, bring home a bigger yield from a team fight. And I think that's also more in part to the fact that NIP's composition is just so good at staying put. So, you know, definitely a little bit to work on there. I think for NIP, find something to actually go forward with, right? I think not having any proactive tools into a team like EDG is just asking for a death sentence, asking to get suffocated out like that. Yeah. Because you could see EDG, as soon as they kind of acknowledged that NIP had their hands tied, they were very happy to very, very slowly play that one out and ensure that NIP had very little to do on the map for a very long time.
Well, I believe we are fixed for the time being. It must have been the excitement of the game. It's annoying when you spend $600 on a microphone, and sometimes it just decides to, you know. So we're gonna have to work on that and try and get a different cable coming out after this one. But folks, apologies. Outside of that, all I can say is that, you know, EDG, when it did look clean, Jamada, it was nice. You know, it was really nice to see FoFo and Jiejie in action. I think Meiko and Jiejie, the last remaining elements of 2021 World Champions. Also awesome to see them syncing up. But props again to NIP for the punish when EDG, I think they were great team fighters last split. It's so weird to see them actually fail in the macro when that was the strongest bit. So, yeah. Yeah, it's... I don't know. It's such a strange game because a lot of this was actually down to, in my mind, a lot more to draft than I think macro. I think he had everything they wanted in this game, and it was basically just a 13-7 draft. And they didn't. I don't know. It's an odd game to break down, Jake, because it was so slow for so long. I want to try and look at this from the NIP perspective and kind of just say, I think if you move Shadow off of the Viego and give him a slightly more aggressive champion, right? Because they weren't able to utilize the 2v2 in the mid jungle, then I think this game can look different. But in the same breath, Shadow was probably the one that could have brought that game back by the end of it because he was so powerful and so strong. True.
It's a bit of a tough call in my mind to make, but I will certainly say that EDG still looked like the powerhouse that they were in spring, right? Happy and very easily dismantling the NIP early game to a point where I think it was 4K, 5K gold lead by around the 15 to 20 minute mark. So still very much on the ball with that.
Yeah, and again, look, the compliments that we give out to EDG definitely worth it, considering that we talk up the same players. I mean, Arla solo killing in lane, that was the start of it, right? Having that Jax in your pocket always was going to be a win condition for EDG, so it is nice that it came through in the end. I think for NIP, you know, similar problems to what we saw last split, where it's working together, it's meshing together, and especially some of those team fights where Shadow has moments, but where's the rest of the team? We can talk about that in a second. Jamada, we are going to go to a break. I'm going to try and fix this puppy in the break as well. And then as we return, hopefully things are looking